All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all you Irish people out there, including my friend Duffy here.
Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. I am your host, Chet. And to my left this time is my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today on this beautiful St. Patrick's Day?
Chet, feeling pretty great on St. Patrick's Day. Went outside just about an hour ago. It's great outside today. Pretty nice weather for a March like today. Like today, and it's got to green out, man. I'm lucky AF.
Save that for the Uncensored Network, man.
Yeah, no one quote them now, right? Just everyone forget that you just saw that.
No. Yeah, close your eyes real quick. Anyways,
drinking coffee, man. I feel
big
like
week.
I feel like a true person from Southie right now.
Oh yeah, Southie Boston. Anyways, hopping right into it, some big news this week. Free agency frenzy has begun as of Monday. A lot of big signings. We're going to cover most of the major ones as we get into it, but hopping right into it, going local to Foxborough, Massachusetts, the New England Patriots making a numerous number of signings this offseason. And wow, talk about a rebuild year for this team. It feels like last year was the rebuild year, and this year the Patriots gain a bunch of different weapons, both on offensive and defensive sides of the ball, and they look like they're ready to make a run at the playoffs this season. Duff, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Patriots, a lot of big signings. They were on track to break the record for most guaranteed money spent in free agency already by Monday. Before free agency technically started, because that was the legal tampering period. But, they're the winners of free agency right now, in my opinion. And I would say that if I wasn't a Pats fan either. I've not seen a team improve this much in free agency, in the league, anywhere close to the Patriots so far. They got a lot of help where they needed to, especially the tight end position. That's what we've been talking about a lot these last few weeks was, John Smith and Hunter Henry. They were names that we were talking about if we can get one or the other, but the Patriots got them both, which is unbelievable. And, getting receivers too, Nelson Aguilar, who's the other
guy? Kendrick Bourne.
They're just really giving camp some help, which we didn't really see last year too much. And I think I'm excited for this season. With these new weapons, at the helm.
Definitely. A lot to work with for Cam Newton, as he was re-signed as of last week to a one-year deal worth $14 million. Not guaranteed too much, but obviously there are entices for him to gain more of that money in his contract. But getting some help, that's huge for him, because you're talking about last year where you had tight ends like Ryan Izzo, and then you had receivers like Jacoby Myers, Damiere Byrd, and N'Keal Harry. These guys just prove that even though they could be there in tough situations, they're not always going to be. They're just not that type of caliber player. And Bill Belichick made it his top priority in free agency to go out for some big names. Hunter Henry to start off one of them. Hunter Henry last season, 60 receptions, 613 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. Easily one of the healthiest years he's ever had in this league so far in his young career. And he made a splash getting the $37 million deal with the Patriots on a 3-year contract. So, personally, I like this signing. This is
Hunter Henry's the guy that Belichick has been really high on. I think before they played in Week 14, the Patriots won that game 45-0, if you remember.
Yes.
In Los Angeles. He was saying how he was really praising Hunter Henry during the week, saying that he's been a great, guy who can block for them, make plays downfield vertically or, underneath. Just an all-around weapon, great skill at the tight end position. Keep in mind, I think he was a second-round pick just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived up to that too. You see a lot of these high-picked tight ends really flop in the NFL. A lot of them taking the first round don't really pan out. But Hunter Henry's the type of guy with a lot of upside. His health has been an issue these last few years. He has missed a lot of games the last couple of years, but I think in New England, if he can just stay healthy, he can be a huge piece of this offense, because Belichick is a huge fan of him. Gives Cam some help. Cam's the type of guy who's used to throwing to tight ends, like Greg Olsen in Carolina, that we saw him really take off his career those last few years. And I think Hunter Henry's the type of guy who can play like Greg Olsen. He's one of those guys who can go up in the back of the end zone, make a catch, in traffic, and get open down the field, and that's what the Patriots really need, especially from that position.
Absolutely. I mean, like we said a few weeks ago, Belichick, I mean, tight ends were a huge issue for New England. You go through a system where consistently you had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski being the main top targets for Tom Brady. But once the retirement of Rob Gronkowski came, we saw the tight end position almost diminish here in New England. And seeing Hunter Henry come here, big body guy who proves he can get downfield and was definitely a big target for Justin Herbert when it was called for moving the football. I think it's going to be huge to have him on this team, especially when he's healthy. And if he can keep that health up, I think he's going to have himself a good career here in New England.
Yeah, and that same goes for Jonnu Smith too, who really was the first big name the Patriots signed this free agency. Like you were saying with Gronk and Hernandez, Belichick loves those tight ends, and he's really tried different ways to get different tight ends too. We've seen in recent years, with Gronk on the team for 7-8 years, 8-9 years actually. We saw them bring guys like Martellus Bennett, Scott Chandler, obviously Hernandez too. They just love having two really good tight ends, and this duo could be lethal. This could be the best tight end duo in the league next year. I think they have the potential to do that. I don't really see a team with depth at the position, and it's just crazy how the Pats went from the worst tight ends in the league. Ryan Izzo, Dalton Keene, Devin Ossie to Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. So, John's not the type of guy too that in the right situation he can really spark. We see him make some great plays. It comes to mind that one-handed catch in the back of the end zone in the playoffs against the Ravens 2 years ago. He's very athletic, and with less targets around him. Obviously, in Tennessee, he was playing with A.J. Brown and Corey Davis in a run-first offense. That can ring the backfield. So John can get more targets, which I definitely think he will this year in Foxborough. I think he's due for a breakout year.
I think so too. And looking at Jonnu Smith's career, looking at his stats from last season, 41 receptions. That's not many. I know he did have some injury issues as well last season. 448 receiving yards, but 8 touchdowns. That's something to really talk about with this player. This is a guy who can get open in the red zone and get you on the scoreboard quick. He's not. When I've watched Jonnu Smith play, I've seen pure speed and strength out of this guy right here. He's just a guy who can pummel through somebody, but at the same time, also use that speed to gain separation downfield and get behind defenders. I think Jonnu Smith is going to fit right into this offense very well, especially with a mobile quarterback like Cam Newton. He's probably going to have to scramble at times. I think we'll see Jonnu Smith and Cam Newton connecting a lot on the sidelines this season.
Me too. And that's a really great point what you said. Cam's going to have to scramble a lot this year. Losing some offensive line help. We saw Marcus Cannon get traded to the Houston Texans for a couple picks. I think the Patriots were able to swap picks with them in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round or something like that. Or maybe it was 4, 5, 6 with the Texans, which some pretty good moves. Pats are making moves all around this offseason, whether it's trading or signing free agents, and they're really just trying to reshape that team. And what we got going now, I think the Pats, with a 17-game schedule next year, presumably, I think they're going to win at least 10 of them. I think this is a really, really good team we've got seeing right now.
I have to agree. And kind of going back to Hunter Henry real quick, this is a quote I found from Belichick. Henry continues to be
a famous quote I've already seen like 3 times this week.
Yeah, but I'll read it again. Henry continues to be a complete and very, very good football player for them. Belichick said in December prior to the Patriots game against the Chargers. Henry's really been a great player. I've watched him pretty much his whole career. He started at Pulaski Academy down in Little Rock, played for Coach Kelly down there. He had a great career there, went to Arkansas and had a great career in Arkansas. Went to the Chargers, and with Green out, he's played the Y role this year and showed good ability to block and catch. He runs a variety of routes. He comes off the injury and has been a very, very productive player for them, along with all their other good skill players. But he's done a good job for them in a running game as well as the passing game. So
Yeah,
kind of going back to both.
I was paraphrasing earlier, but that's a lot of high praise. So, like Belichick was saying, put him in that Y role. That's like the tight ends, I think, on like the right side of the line of scrimmage. I'm trying to think, but um, yeah, I mean, we're gonna be seeing a lot of production from him. I think they're gonna be drawing up a lot of plays for him because Belichick's a huge fan of this guy.
Yeah, totally agree. He basically kind of went back to what we were saying about those Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski days, except I think what he found is two guys who can do it all besides I mean, not to say Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez couldn't do it all, but these are definitely some guys who can do it all. And I think that's the roots he's trying to get the New England Patriots back to, is that two tight end set. Now kind of moving our way into the receivers. Nelson Aguilar, a decent signing. I'm not high on Nelson Aguilar, but I will say when he was in Oakland last season.
I don't know if anyone's really that high on Nelson Aguilar.
But the thing about him is he's a fast guy. And looking at his stats right here, 48 receptions, 896 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns with the Oakland Raiders. He proved to be a vital weapon to Derek Carr downfield. And although he only had 48 receptions on the year, he almost broke 1,000 yards. That is something to talk about right there. And that's a guy who is overshadowed while he was playing with the Philadelphia Eagles by players like Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey. This is a chance for him to really get back into this offense and become a deep threat for Cam Newton downfield and break the separation between those defenses. Yeah. So I think this is, obviously it's discount from what you could probably get in the open market. Obviously, you still have Kenny Galladay out there, and you have Allen Robinson kind of complaining about the franchise tag since he wants to get paid by the Chicago Bears. But I feel this is kind of a happy medium between those guys if you don't want to spend a lot of your salary cap on somebody. I think Nelson Aguilar could be a good solution to what this team needs.
That's a great point. It's kind of a discount, like you were saying, Chet. Only a 2-year, $26 million deal, which I think is a pretty good contract for a guy like Nelson Aguilar, who averaged 19 yards of reception last year, which is pretty crazy in his only year in Oakland. But I like the signing a lot by the Patriots, honestly. He's a guy with a lot of upside. He's really fixing a lot of those errors that he had early in his career. He's only 27 years old. He's got the speed. He's got that outside speed the Patriots have been lacking for years now, if we're going to be completely honest. And he can be a dynamic playmaker. If him and Cam are able to build chemistry throughout the offseason, or wherever the quarterback is going to be in 2021, then I think Nelson Aguilar could have maybe a double-digit touchdown season. As crazy as it sounds, as the Pats only threw for 10 touchdowns all of last season, but he had 8 touchdowns last year. They're going to be drawing plays up for him downfield. I like this signing a lot. And as polarizing of a player as Nelson Aguilar is, he has a lot of upside, and he's really improved every year he's been in the league, with the exception of 2019. But yeah, I think it's definitely an upgrade over what the Patriots had before. So it's easy for me to say that I like the signing because we didn't really have anyone before that. But I think it's a good deal. I think it's a bargain, honestly.
Yeah, it's definitely a bargain because you're talking about a guy who was primarily a slot receiver, but then last season he was the number 2 guy over there in Oakland, running routes on the outside, and he proved he can be a very good deep threat. So we'll see how he gets into the system. And then coming from San Francisco, also from the Bay Area. But of course, as we know, Oakland is no longer the home for the Raiders. They are now in the desert of Las Vegas. But coming from the Bay Area, Kendrick.
Great connection.
What's that?
Right there. So that was a great connection.
Yeah,
but totally forgot.
But coming from
Oakland.
Yeah, no, that's why I corrected myself. But coming from the Bay Area, Kendrick Bourne from the San Francisco 49ers, age 25 now, and his first 4 seasons were solid with the Niners. Obviously, you're just talking about a guy who's probably a third string wide receiver. And he stepped up last season. Career high numbers, 49 receptions, 667 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns though. Obviously, he wasn't targeted as much as the Niners were struggling a majority of last season. And of course, injuries, including to Kendrick Bourne, were an issue with this team. But I think he brings something to the table here. He's a very tall dude, and he's just got I mean, 6'1", that's kind of average. It's an inch taller than me, but
Yeah,
he's
not really that tall.
but either way, from what
He's
I've
probably
seen of
taller
Kendrick
than him,
Bourne, when he's played, he's a solid option to have out there, a good safety net to have for Cam Newton to really check it down to, or to just run simple routes. But like I said, just getting some of these speedy guys, it's really going to change the way this offense works, especially for Cam, who himself is a speedster and really likes to move around. So I think what they're doing right now is really pushing for Cam Newton's strengths. And as we get into Cam Newton, we'll get to that, because Cam Newton's career, we all know the history between him and Greg Olsen when he was in Carolina. That tandem right there was always something to look out for. But now you're talking about 2 tight ends, some speedy wide receivers, and potentially a running back coming into the mix, maybe? Because we are hearing that the Patriots, as of 2 days ago, as they were saying, were in talks with Leonard Fournette and Chris Carson's agents. So maybe another signing due.
That would be huge. I wouldn't really like the move, honestly, if they got either of those guys. So I know, unless they can get them for really cheap, that would be great, because the Pats, we've seen guys like James White not really be that much of a part of the offense anymore. Rex Burkhead taking a step down this last year too. But I honestly think that Damian Harris is the future of the backfield. Watching him play, he's a guy who runs hard every single play in, play out. Gets 5-6 yards of carry. He's always moving forward. I'm a huge fan of Damian Harris. So based on any of these guys, then it's probably just to add depth. I think that Damian Harris will win the starting role next year, regardless.
Wow, that's a hot take right there. I like that.
It's a hot take, but watching him play, I mean, this guy's a beast. He can run through. He can find the open hole. He can bulldoze for 6 yards every run. And he's really fun to watch, which is, I've never seen a back as powerful as him in New England since, LeGarrette Blount, honestly. So I really want to see him explode next year. I think he's going to be a really big sleeper pick in fantasy next year. And, hopefully I can get him in a really late round, because he's a beast. I think that he's going to really improve in year 2. So I was thinking about yesterday, like if the Pats got either of these running backs, Chris Carson, or who's the other guy again? It was Chris Carson, or I can't remember. Already.
And Leonard Fournette.
I mean,
potentially one.
Fournette's a beast. He'll probably sign for cheap anyways. He was on a 1-year deal last year. Despite his really big playoff run, we saw a lot of inconsistency from him throughout the season, being inactive the last 2 games of the season. And, Chris Carson too, injury problems. So Damian Harris, I really think it's his job to lose. So, and I really want to see him win it.
No, I can agree with you there, because I mean, watching Damian Harris play when he was doing what he was doing in that second half of the season, I mean, I was just shuddered by the amount of hits he would take, or the amount of power he brought with his run game. Because just watching him, it brought me back to the days of LeGarrette Blount here in New England and that sort of thing. But I mean, adding Leonard Fournette or Chris Carson to the mix, because as we know, the New England Patriots are known for running multi-running back setups, whether it's switching in James White, who is obviously going to depart now at age 29 at this point. I've always loved James White. He did win a Super Bowl for us, but at the end of the day, I think it's best to move on to better pastures, younger pastures. That is,
James White could have been in Super Bowl MVP that 1 year too. Never forget. He really could have won. He really should have won it, honestly.
I'm pretty sure Brady gave him the truck after.
Really?
Yeah, he gave him the truck.
Malcolm Butler the truck too. I don't even know if there was. I don't even think there's a truck anymore, but I'm pretty sure that could be true that Brady did give James White some welcome to the game.
Well, I mean, he played unbelievable in that Super Bowl, and he's played unbelievable in New England. But obviously, based on what this team is looking like right now, it's out with the old and in with the new type spiel going on here. And now looking at the defensive side of the ball, there were some big free agents that the Patriots really went for on defense. And we'll start off by talking about Matt Judon, because Matt Judon, in his tenure with the Baltimore Ravens, I really like what I've seen from that edge rusher. I don't know about you, Duffy.
Yeah, Matt Judon, he's a really, really good interior lineman or linebacker, excuse me. Yeah, he's a beast. And when I said the Pats were gonna possibly sign him. I was like, really, no way. I mean, he's going to want a lot of money. He's getting paid top dollar position almost. 2-time Pro Bowler each of the last 2 years, and he's still only 28 years old. So he's on the come up. 15 and a half sacks the last 2 years as a linebacker off the edge. I mean, this guy's a beast, and that's one of the things the Patriots really struggled in last year was getting to the quarterback in many games and stopping the run too. They're bottom four in the league in run defense last year. And I think Judon's going to help them a lot. This is a huge improvement. I was really surprised when they got him because of the type of money they were just throwing out to John Smith just an hour before that. But I'm hyped about this signing, man. This is really huge. And Devin Gadshaw, I think his name is, bomb to the Dolphins too. He's a defensive tackle. He's going to help solve their problems as well. He's going to fight for that starting interior D lineman spot. And this is going to be a really fun team to watch, I think, on both sides of the ball. And it's going to be really interesting to see, how these guys adjust to playing in New England and underneath the Patriot way. So Matt Judon, Davin Gadshaw, Jalen Mills too in the bottom right. I'm excited to have all three of them, but Matt Judon especially. He's the type of guy who he could be a difference maker for years to come. With
absolutely
that's going to be hype.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at both these players, Jalen Mills, 26, Matt Judon, 28, young guys. I mean, Jalen Mills with his time in Philadelphia, they had their ups and downs. But regardless, he's proven to be a solid slot corner at that position. But it also brings up the question here, is this the end of Stephon Gilmore's time with the New England Patriots? And to be honest, we could be seeing it right now because you still have great cornerbacks there like Jonathan Jones and J.C. Jackson. And now you add Jalen Mills to the mix. Maybe this is spills the end for Gilmore because obviously we talked about – what's that?
Difference maker for years to come. Sorry, dude. Hold up. My bad.
What just happened? I'm so confused now.
My computer was like lagging, dude, because I was I had the Facebook stream open, dude, by accident.
But yeah, so I mean, we've talked about the last couple weeks that Stephon Gilmore, all arrows really point to him leaving this team. The team shopped him, but I mean, I've talked to some people and they've said teams are kind of lowballing him right now due to that quad injury that spelled his end for 2020 last year for him. So
yeah,
I don't know. For me, I would like to see Gilmore stay, but at the same time, now it brings into the question of Cam Newton. And you can check out my article that I just wrote about him this week. It's on sfbnri.com. Go to articles.
Great read.
And I break down everything about Cam Newton so far with the New England Patriots. Obviously, we covered the pass game and all that with him. But the bottom line is you do have to give him some credit. He's a very, very strong attitude going into each week, constantly wanting to improve, even when he was at the podium explaining what the hell happened in that debauchery of a game that just occurred. I mean, he has covered.
It was a weekly occurrence.
Yeah, it was a weekly occurrence of saying, hey, Cam, what the hell was going on there? And he's just like, I take full responsibility.
It just really sucked today, man. That's pretty much all it is, man.
Yeah. But the thing is, Cam was brought into a system in July. Obviously, you're like, oh, so he had 2 months. Well, hold up a second. No training camp, no preseason games. He didn't really have time to really get in sync with these guys because of the coronavirus.
Right. Yeah.
Come week one, we see some good things out of him, but obviously they try and keep him within the run game. And then Seattle, he explodes, and we're like, Cam's back, baby. Like, this is amazing. But then the dog days come. Once midseason hits, Cam's kind of really trickling downhill. And then week 7, you got the Jets, a huge victory there. Patriots nearly lose that game, though. And then they get a decisive victory over Baltimore. And at that point, you're like, the Patriots might have a shot here. And then you have these ups and downs that come to the end. And the Patriots finish at 7-9. And for me, I think the Patriots are probably smart to go with them again because there was a lot really in his way. He did get COVID-19 mid-season in the beginning of the season. That could have screwed him up a little bit. But obviously, some people don't want to put that there and say, hey, you can't use that in this argument. But I mean, at the same time, he didn't have a lot of time to really get integrated into the system. Now that he's here, and you're talking about an organization that just went from Tom Brady to suddenly a mobile quarterback. That's a huge shift in personnel.
Correct.
So to finish what I'm saying before I let you speak, Duffy, I know I've been going on with this. He's got a year under his belt. Him and the organization understand what they need to do to improve. And now that vaccines are starting to roll out, and now that it seems like this pandemic is nearly over, this could give Cam a chance to really get in sync with his team.
For sure. And something that we've always talked about too, all the Cam apologists, sometimes I feel like one myself. It's a really good argument that, coming into 2020, he only had 2 months before the season. No OTAs, no, limited training camp, no preseason at all. And, they still started 2-1. And after he got COVID, it really trickled downhill. Like you were saying, Chet, 4 losses in a row that really the Pats never, came back from that 4-game skid. They were 2-1, went to 2-5, finished 7-9. And were they a 7-9 team? Honestly, I think they could. Their roster looked like it was 3-13. If we're going to be honest,
honestly,
it's a team with great coaching. Cam Newton's a veteran in this league. He's a former MVP. With some weapons and a full offseason, there's no doubt in my mind he could, make that leap to get to the playoffs next year. Just give him some time. Like you said, a year under their belt between this relationship, Cam and the Patriots. They understand what they need from each other and what they need to succeed. And the Patriot way. They definitely have been trickling down all the X's and O's in the offseason of how and when they can improve this offseason, and they've really taken advantage. They were second in the league in terms of cap space this offseason, and they're really taking full advantage. We've seen a lot of memes where Belichick, he's taken that personally, like Michael Jordan said with Brady winning his 7th ring.
Mm.
And honestly, I think he is. He's really doing all this to just, really rebuild the Patriot way. Hopefully this is the quickest rebuild of all time. Hopefully we're back to contention next season. That's the goal.
Yeah.
It was kind of a long shot thinking about it, but after Monday, there's just a lot of hope, for this season.
Yeah.
All these new big names, new personnel. It feels like a lot of our problems have already been fixed to a degree. And it's really, really exciting. It's the most excited I've been for a season, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe since my first year watching football.
Yeah, I am absolutely excited. It's a brand new team, brand new faces, new personnel coming into it. Hopefully the Patriots really execute. And I mean, I know I'm one of those people who's a Cam hater towards the end of the season. And I still have my problems with him, but you know what? I have optimism, and I hope with that optimism, he proves me wrong from last year and really steps up this year. So all we can do is just hope and wait, because obviously this is the most exciting part until we don't really hear nothing until draft day. So great. If I had to give the Oscar tonight, Chet's Oscar is going to go to the New England Patriots. Congratulations, Bill Belichick and the Patriots organization for this victory. And with that,
represented by Bill Belichick.
And with that, we're going to head to a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to break down quickly some of these NFL free agent signings that were huge in the league. And then eventually we're going to get to some Bruins and Celtics updates, both teams kind of hitting the dog days right now. Until then, we'll see you after the commercials. All right, welcome back, sports fans, to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network. I'm your host, Chet and Duffy here, and we're gonna
Let's go,
hop right
Chet.
in. Oh, yeah, let's go, Duffy. Let's
Let's
hop
get
in.
it, baby.
So one of the top free agents I think that I have to talk about right now, and obviously I'm still stuck on the Patriots right here, but Joe Thuney at age 28 has officially left the New England Patriots, heading out to Kansas City to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 5-year deal worth $80 million. A lot of money going into this guy, and the Patriots proved with their offseason moves they were not willing to pay for this man.
Yeah. Really big contract for Joe Thuney. More money than I thought he would sign for. $80 million for him, which is a huge contract. And it's crazy because me and you were talking about earlier, the Patriots always have these great offensive linemen. And that's really been the most consistent part of this franchise the last 20 years besides quarterback. The offensive line's always been great, and a lot of these guys are going to cash in this offseason. Another free agent offensive lineman is David Andrews, too, who has been a huge part of this Patriots offense the last, 4 years. So, congratulations to Joe Thuney. It sucks to see him go to the Chiefs. When I got the notification, it was from the NFL app, and it said Joe Thuney is going to the AFC West, but, they'll do that
Yeah,
thing. They won't say what teams. They want you to click on their
it's
article.
clickbait.
Yeah, and I was like, dude,
Jerks.
there's no way it's the Chiefs because, there's no way it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't going to
Yeah,
spend 80 million on an offensive lineman. And it said the Chiefs, and I was like, are you
I
kidding
thought it
me,
was. I
bro?
thought it was Denver. I thought it was the
You saw the
Broncos,
same
to be
thing, right?
honest.
You saw the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah, I thought it was going to be
Well, I
Denver.
saw it, and I thought it was Denver, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." I don't know why
That's
I'd sign with
interesting. Yeah,
Denver,
I don't
but
know the last key free agent Denver's gotten other than Peyton Manning, dude, or Wes
yeah,
Welker.
honestly, but I mean, to name some former Patriots linemen, I mean, you got Matt Light, you got Logan Mankins, you got Shaq Mason, you got David Andrews. These are just like either current
Many
or
good
players
guys.
that they've drafted. And even Nate Solder, who was great for us for
And
years
he had a
before.
payday when he was a free agent too. That's a prime example. Nate Solder, when he left the Patriots, he signed for something like $75 million
With the New York Giants.
without ever making a Pro Bowl. And since he went to the Giants, he's been a mid-tier offensive lineman. So maybe it's the system. Maybe they just make these guys look great. But nonetheless, Joe Thuney got paid. So
Yeah,
it sucks the Patriots couldn't keep him. But
yeah. They
it is business.
exercised the franchise tag last season to keep him around, and he offered some great protection. He even moved around that line a bit for the Patriots, moving to tackle at times. But I mean,
Yeah.
Tooney deserved it because right now he's easily in my top 10 or my top 5 for offensive linemen in this league. He is just a great guard, and the Chiefs, they really need after releasing both left and right tackles, somebody at that guard position. And I think Joe Thuney's going to fill their need perfectly.
Absolutely. And another offensive lineman who got paid yesterday, who really want to talk about in this episode, for $138 million, 6-year deal at the age of 32, turning 33 next month. My mouth actually dropped when I saw this number. I'm going to be honest.
I did too.
Trent Williams signed for $138 million. And don't get me wrong, Trent Williams, he's really one of the best offensive linemen of our generation. 8-time Pro Bowler in 8 of the last 9 seasons, but 6-year deal at age 32. That's for an offensive lineman. I've never seen anything like that before, and for this much money too, that's a really transcendent deal in my opinion. That I think is really going to shape the way that we see, these generational offensive linemen in the next decade or two.
I totally agree with you there.
I actually couldn't believe it. I'm not saying it's not worth the money, but that's a whole lot of money.
Yeah, a whole lot of money, like you said, for a 32-year-old left tackle. I mean, what we know from offensive linemen, that position is brutal. Brutal. You're talking about taking a blunt force every snap from these just incredible athletic pass rushers. And for him at age 32 to get a 6-year deal worth that much money, you better hope that most of that money comes into the beginning of that contract because I mean, you don't want to be paying that man once he's retired because that's a lot of cap going into this one guy. But it's a need the Niners needed to re-sign him. And he was floating around in the market for a little bit. And I was like, I don't know if the Niners are going to snatch him up. And they proved they really need a left tackle because Trent Williams, like you said, 8-time Pro Bowler. And he's a guy who really got overshadowed because he was in Washington for so many years with the Redskins. Yeah. So this is good for him because a lot of people wrote the Niners off last season, say they're not going to be good for a while, but it's like injuries, man. You can't really blame them. A lot of injuries for them. The bug really hit them hard. And this is really something to help them really get some boost and keep that line intact for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, whether it's Garoppolo or anyone else they bring in, I don't think Garoppolo will be the quarterback for the next 6 years, maybe in the next year. His future's up in the air, but whoever they got, playing in that offense, Trent Williams, they just want him to be a consistent part of that team the next, 6 years or so. 33 years old, like I think last week, a great example was Andrew Whitworth, a guy, offensive lineman who's played for a very long time. It's tough to play that position at such a high level for so long. And Trent Williams, 8-time Pro Bowler. If anyone in the league is going to be able to do it, it's probably him. But, we've seen these, high-paid offensive linemen, we've seen a lot of them, come back to haunt teams. David Bakhtiari, I'm not saying it came back to haunt him. He signed a $105 million contract. I think it was in November, and he ends up tearing his ACL a week before the NFC Championship game, which was a huge blow to the Packers. And he's only 29 years old, so that type of money kind of makes sense for a guy like him. Trent Williams, he is worth this type of money, in my opinion. But like you were saying, Chet, great analysis there that, you're really hoping that these most of this money comes in the first few years, kind of like with Dak's deal also, he's getting $75 million next year. So Trent Williams, if he's 36, 37 years old, one injury could possibly end his career, with years left in the contract. So, it's a great re-sign by the 49ers. You can say or you can't say there's overpaid or not, but, it's a little bit risky. And I was not expecting him to sign for that long, but, great job by them securing, this guy to be on their team the next half decade or so, and really keeping their identity because they've been a team with a great offensive line, like you were saying last week, Chet, with Joe Staley, the predecessor at that left tackle position to Trent Williams in San Francisco. Keep that run game strong, which they've really shown that they've been one of the most lethal running attacks the last few years, and it's really, really something that they just want to keep their identity a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something they really want to stick towards with that run game. And of course, protecting their quarterback. Why not sign the best or at least one of the best in the league right now currently? So, I mean, great move by the Niners and another great move here in the AFC South. Tennessee Titans snatching up Bud Dupree from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he signed a 5-year deal worth $82.5 million. This is a young kid, 28 years old. The season before last, 11.5 sacks, 8 sacks last season. Bud Dupree has always been a name for the Pittsburgh Steelers as an edge rusher who's just been a guy who can cause havoc in that backfield. And this could really mean that this team does not want Jadeveon Clowney on their roster again. So, I mean, you get someone young, you get somebody who's not known for a lot of injuries, a lot of problems with his career. And I think this was a good move by them. It really keeps that defense solidified on the edge. And I like the signing personally.
This is a great move by the Titans. And I remember last week I was saying that I thought Shaquille Barrett was a really good option for the Tennessee Titans too. Obviously them needing a pass rusher, them being the worst third down defense in the league, not being able to really stop the pass or run a lot of the time. Their defense was the reason that they lost a lot of those games. Example too, this team finished 11-5 last year. And, so many of these games were close because of their defense. Remember those 2 Houston Texans games in which, they allowed over 35 points each of them, and they still end up winning the game because their offense was so powerful, led by Derrick Henry. But, this is a great signing. Bud Dupree, 11 starts last year, 11 games. And after he went down with injury, they end up losing 5 of the last 6 games to Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's a huge difference maker. He's one of the best young edge rushers in the NFL, without a doubt. And him going to Tennessee, that's huge. And, the Titans are in a really competitive division now with the Indianapolis Colts, who are probably the favorite to win the division next year, and the upstart Jacksonville Jaguars too. We're going to get the first pick and really rebrand themselves as well. So signing a guy like Bud Dupree, who really is a difference maker on the football field, it's going to be huge, and it's really going to re-solidify that Titans defense a little bit, who really struggled last year. If and really give the offense some help. They couldn't get off the field last year, and Bud's going to help them a lot with that this upcoming season.
I definitely agree. I think it's a great move by the Tennessee Titans. They want to keep themselves in the conversation in their division, and Bud Dupree is going to be a big part of that on their pass rush for their defense. They're trying to keep up what they do best on that side of the ball. So another free agent who we thought was very well going to end up in the open market ended up staying in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Aaron Jones managed to cash in with the Packers on a 4-year deal worth $48 million. Definitely a lot less than what I expected.
Yeah.
For this, yeah. But I mean, honestly, that's a great move.
I mean, I want to salute Aaron Jones. Honestly, I think he's the runner-up for your Oscar of the night. To the Patriots, taking that hometown discount, which a lot of these guys don't do anymore nowadays. They just want to get that payday. And Aaron Jones going back to Green Bay, he knows his team is a contender. He knows they were one game away from the Super Bowl last year, and we saw a lot of projections that he could sign for $50 plus million with another team, like the Miami Dolphins we were talking about last week. So he's found success in Green Bay. Running the ball, receiving the ball out of the backfield. He's going to help his team be a contender. Especially with Jamal Williams, who just walked out of Green Bay too, wanted to sign with Detroit today. That's a huge it's a huge job by the Packers, honestly, just retaining Aaron Jones, because now they got their running back. They're getting the band back together, and this is maybe the last year or two of the Aaron Rodgers championship window, and they need a guy like Aaron Jones to help them get there.
Absolutely. And I mean, Aaron Jones has been a name that's floated around this podcast quite a bit. Back-to-back seasons with 1,000 rushing yards. In 2019, he rushed for 16 rushing touchdowns and 9 touchdowns in 2020. And then through the air, he's proven himself to be a viable weapon in the pass game. 1,057 career receiving yards, 3 touchdowns in 2019 and 2 in 2020. Aaron Jones is a huge part of this offense, and I think it's a great job negotiation-wise by the Green Bay Packers to keep him here, because he is a huge reason why this team is so successful. And letting him walk to another team is letting that production go away. And they were very good at keeping him here and convincing him to stay.
For sure. And I really don't even know how they did it, honestly, because
I don't know either.
Literally everyone
thought
he was on his way out. And, shout out to the Packers who, they have struggled in recent years to get Aaron Rodgers help, keep these pivotal guys in their team. And they somehow did this year with Aaron Jones. And, that's really, really tremendous by them.
And then one other name to really talk about. Obviously, this is a re-signing, but keeping Shaq Barrett was Tampa Bay's biggest priority for defense. They managed to keep Levante David, and now they managed to keep Shaq Barrett. I think that is an excellent move by this team to really keep that Super Bowl defense intact.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett, huge re-signing. Really was another guy who people thought was on his way out, especially with the amount of cap space the Buccaneers have, and restructuring Brady's contract, re-signing Levante David. This is really huge, to get Shaq Barrett back. How much did he sign for? Do you know how much he signed for?
It was I think it's a 4-year deal worth $72 million.
Damn, it says 4-year, $68 million with $18 million signing bonus and $36 million guaranteed. So, yeah, that's a really, really great deal for Shaquille Barrett. I think he's worth that type of money. That's the type of money that people thought he was going to sign for, somewhere in that ballpark too. So, great job by Tampa Bay re-signing him. We saw him in the Super Bowl really wreak havoc, really get to Mahomes, and give him some more time with this defense, developing a lot too. Don't forget, this guy did have 19.5 sacks just 2 years ago. He's going to be an all-pro player soon. He's one of the best young pass rushers in the league. And if he can just really stay on this trajectory, he's going to be one of the best in the league.
Absolutely.
In that,
And I
in
mean,
that year.
yeah, and I mean, this was a guy who in the Super Bowl, him and Jason Pierre-Paul had a field day. And you can't take that type of talent away from a team like that. You get rid of that talent, it's gone. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they knew that. They really did.
Sure.
And they, like I said, this was a top priority for them to keep their team intact. So you restructure Brady, you franchise tag Godwin, you get Levante David on a low deal to keep him there. I believe it was 2 years worth, $24 million. And then
Something like that.
they really go all in to cash in for this guy. And I say, go right ahead. All day long, I would keep Shaq Barrett. I mean, he had a great startup career in Denver. And when he got to Tampa right away, 19 and a half sacks, that's almost the all-time record right there.
Yeah,
This
that
is
was
a guy.
guy.
Yeah, this is a guy who has just kept going up each year. You can't replace that type of talent right away. It takes time. So hold on to it while it's there. And hats off to them once again. Excellent job.
Absolutely. And one last guy I want to talk about real quick, who looks like he's going to get signed. Maybe, hopefully within the next 13 minutes, we can do some breaking news. Which, pretty dry day for free agency in the last 3.5 hours. But this guy right here, Kenny Golladay, this is extremely blurry, but I'm gonna have to roll with it. Kenny Golladay, multiple reports the Bengals was offered him a contract about an hour ago, I believe. But the clear-cut favorite now is the New York Giants. And I saw a report that it was like a 90% chance of it happening. I don't know how true that is. I think it was a Giants insider, so there's gonna be some bias there, anyways. But he's getting paid this offseason. Golladay, like I was saying last week, very raw talent. He can go up on the outside and make any catch. So it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. See if he can become, the Giants' number one receiver or the Bengals, because either one of these teams that he goes to, he's gonna be the number one receiver there. Line him up with T. Higgins too. I think that could make the Bengals a true, wild card contender next year in that division, honestly. And I think whoever team gets him, like I was saying last week, they're gonna get exponentially better. And give if he signs with one of these young quarterbacks like Burrow or Daniel Jones, he's gonna make them a lot better too. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, looking at the way his career started, he didn't get much snaps in 2017. But 2018, right away, he goes off. 1,063 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. And then the following season, he goes up 1,190 yards and 11 touchdowns. A career year for him in 2019. 2020, he suffered the injury bug, and that really set him back in terms of his stock. But people know when Kenny Golladay has been healthy, and I'm pretty sure in my highlight reel here, I do have stuff from Matt Stafford throwing some nice bombs to Kenny Golladay, because Kenny Golladay proved
in the Matt Stafford highlight reel.
Yeah, he is. This dude is a stud. Kenny Golladay is a stud, but he needs to get paid. And it's weird because a lot of the reports I've seen, Miami has been a top target, but now in recent hours, I've seen Detroit's really trying to do what they can to keep him.
Yeah. And
which is really interesting.
I think that's, kind of unlikely. I mean, unless they give him the most amount of money. We already saw Marvin Jones walk, like we brought up earlier, going to Jacksonville, which was surprising to me because Jacksonville has another, veteran receiver of that team, which is going to be a really young team next year. But, who is Jared Goff going to throw the balls to? TJ Hawkinson, that's pretty much it.
Everyone's jumping ship, man. It's unbelievable.
Everyone's jumping ship. So, yeah, obviously the Lions are going to make a huge push to get this guy again. Couldn't even keep Marvin Jones for relatively cheap. I think he signed for only like $14 million or something like that.
Something really low ball, but
pretty cheap. So they can re-sign Kenny Golladay, which honestly, I don't think they will. But if they somehow do, then it would be extremely surprising. Going back to in the crumbling situation that they're in, trading their franchise quarterback, having to rebuild completely. That would be a huge shock. That would quadruple the amount of shock I had with Aaron Jones going back to Green Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what it comes down to with most of these players that have departed Detroit, I think it's two reasons. I think it's the organization of the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. Because you look at Jared Goff blew up, was unbelievable, and then suddenly he goes into these weird struggles. He starts making inconsistent throws. He's throwing interceptions.
Turnovers.
He's fumbling the football, and he's just not being productive. And he's screwing the Rams out of games that they could definitely win. And he has everything at his fingertips. And then Matt Stafford, a guy who constantly was a field general. No matter what, when the team was down, he would deliver every step of the way. I don't care what you say about it. Matt Stafford has been known to be one of the best passers in this league. And LA's giving him a chance. And I think that's part of the reason why these guys are jumping off the ship. And then Detroit is a team that hasn't made the playoffs consistently in years. I mean, obviously, a few years ago they made it, but they were one and done. This is an organization that has never seen a Super Bowl, ever,
or even been that close, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, 3 decades.
So I mean, a lot of information's there, and I think that's just the surface of it. There's probably more to it, but those are my reasons as to why Kenny Galladay might not want to stay. Is just the organization itself and potentially his quarterback,
and his career.
Yeah, but obviously, hopefully,
go to a big market, man. He should go to a big market.
That'd be awesome if we could report on him live to you guys. Obviously, that probably will not happen within our time span, but we're going to hit a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're wrapping up football, and we're going to head into some quick Celtics and Bruins talk to end off the night. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Peace.
All right, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. We're going to get right into some Celtics talk because we had previewed them last week about going into these tough matchups against the Nets and the Jazz. And like I kind of expected,
we fell
short by a lot. And this team, third in the Atlantic, they're now 7.5 out, but in the East, they rank 6th. Which means if the playoffs were to happen today, they'd be playing Milwaukee, which more than likely they would probably get smoked like immediately.
They might win one of those games,
Yeah.
Celtics suck. We can't play a good fourth quarter for crap. Going to the game last night against the Jazz, they're down 1 with like 3 minutes left. I was watching the game, and 2 big threes by Don Mitchell and Mike Conley, and they were down 7 just like that. They can't play a good fourth quarter for crap. Up 2 entering the fourth last night, or down 2, entering the fourth last night. They end up going in, getting outscored by 10 in the fourth quarter and losing by 8. So they were up 2, my bad. They allowed 40 points in the fourth quarter. In Brooklyn the other night, they're down 2 heading into the fourth. They lose by 12, got outscored by 10 in the fourth quarter. This team, they can't come big down the stretch. We saw Marcus Smart take a lot of, bad shots last night down the stretch. 2 really killer threes that were just bricks, thwinks off the rim. And, they can't come up big. And I think it really comes down to the big man position. They really couldn't contain Rudy Gobert last night at all, or really anybody. They could not defend the perimeter. Rudy Gobert 16 and 12. Not the game he had the game before where he had 28 rebounds, but still, really could not get anything going. You see the Jazz had 6 guys in double figures last night. Really just ran all over them, man. Celtics, they're 0-8. I saw stats after the game. They're 0-8 against teams who have won 2/3 or more of their games. They have not beaten a single, elite team in the league this year. They've lost every game. So shame on me for betting on them. I'm not gonna lie.
How much
All right, so at the end of the game, they're only down like 3 when I did this. They were plus 340. So I put like $3 to win 11. And
You're lowballing these bets, man. Wow.
dude, $3 to win 11. I was like, dude, they're the Celtics. They might come back and win. And then, that crap happened. It was tough to watch. They really could not clutch it down the stretch and kind of ended up choking the game, which they had many chances to win and take the lead.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the stats right here. I mean, looking at this team right now with the Jazz, I mean, Donovan Mitchell, 21 points, unbelievable. And then you have 17, 16, 12, and off the bench, 14 and 20. That's huge. That's huge for that team to really get a lot of support from the bench. And you look at the Celtics, 28 points from Jaylen Brown, 29 from Jason Tatum, playing his heart out in that game, and only 14 really from the bench besides the 2 and the 5 you have there. And then you look at Brooklyn from last week, and I remember looking at the post game and being like, Celtics they're screwed. They're absolutely screwed. Kyrie Irving dumping 40 points on this team. Unbelievable show for him to really get some revenge.
He might average 40 against the Celtics until he retires, dude. He always smokes us when we play him again.
Yeah, I mean, this dude, it makes me miss the dude, but at the same time, he was a head case. He was something to worry about with that team.
At the time, it was definitely the right decision at the time, for sure.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do it anymore.
Obviously, looking back at it, I do miss the dude in a way, but at the same time, Boston was all over him every 5 seconds, and I think he couldn't handle the market here, and the market clearly didn't want to handle him as well. So, I mean, he was basically run out of the town, which is what Boston does to people as it is.
Somehow New York likes him better. Somehow that's an easier crowd for him to please.
New York's kind of a mix of everything, though. That's the thing. Boston's been known for having very rude people and loudmouth people, for that matter. You see in the news reports all the time. We're one of them, if you think about it.
Yeah, especially with Boston sports fans. We expect nothing but the best.
The best.
Having the privilege to watch all these great teams for so many years. So the Celtics, at the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, a position which a lot of teams would be dying to be in, but it's easy for us to say that we suck because we're accustomed to better things from Boston, especially the Celtics, who have made 3 of the last 4 Eastern Conference Finals, and their 2 best players both be named All-Stars for the first time this season. Tatum's second appearance, but I mean, collaboratively they're both in the game together for the first time this year. But really need some huge adjustments down the stretch. Tough going after the All-Star break, and they had a chance to win both these games that we were talking about, Brooklyn and Utah, against arguably the 2 best teams in the league right now. They had a chance to win both of them, so there is some upside there. But down the stretch, that fourth quarter offense and defense really needs to step it up, and we're gonna really need to see a big change in late in the games.
I totally agree with you right there. And I mean, the schedule right now for them, they get a little bit of a break from those tough matchups. You got Cleveland coming up. You got Sacramento, Orlando, and Memphis. But then at the end of the month, like we highlighted last week, Milwaukee, 2 straight games. They'll play in Milwaukee against the Bucks. This is going to be crucial for them in the East, really. If they really want to get themselves in this conversation, they literally just can't lose a game.
Yeah.
Up until that point.
They just got to win all these big games. They got to at least be competitive in them so we can, have something to look forward to. That stretch against Milwaukee is going to be really tough. 2 games in a row in Milwaukee, which that's going to be really difficult to even get one of those games to be wins. But, win these next games against the Magic and Grizzlies, these next 4 games, all winnable: Cavs, Kings, Magic, Grizzlies. So they can just win the games that they're supposed to win. Like I've been saying every week, they beat the Rockets the other day by like 30 points. They were really supposed to win. So then there's definitely some upside. There's definitely a lot to look forward to. Not really a lot to look forward to. I can't cap about that, but
yeah.
Let's hope for the best because this is a playoff team. They have a playoff roster. They're going to get in the dance. I don't see them going to lose. I don't see them losing more games than they win down the stretch. But if they want to really assert themselves as a team to, be afraid of in the playoffs, they're going to have to win at least some of these games against really elite teams.
Definitely. I totally agree.
Not one of those teams anymore this year.
You know what? Let's make things interesting, Duff. Let's make a bet right now on the Milwaukee games. Between you and me, let's do. We'll do.
I've never had you propose a bet to me.
Well, now I'm proposing it. $5. I say Boston wins one out of these two.
So do I think they're gonna do I think they're gonna lose two? Is that the bet? So if they,
we could either. I mean, it doesn't matter. We can
if
figure
they
something
win
out.
both, well, if they win both or lose both, does that count for me for both of those options?
Yeah, this is kind of tough because it's two games we're talking about
I'll
here.
say they lose them both, but if they win them both, it'll be a push. We'll just offset it.
Yeah, we'll just offset it.
I'll say they lose them both.
This is live right now on Unapologetic.
Only because, dude,
it's a $5 bet.
You haven't made a bet in so long. The last
you brought it up, and you know what? We're doing it right here on the show. $5 bet says they win one of these two.
Yeah, the last game me and Chet bet on was the Washington-Pittsburgh game in week 13, and I had Washington. I had a feeling about them. We had $5, and they actually pulled.
Yeah, they were still undefeated, the Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers. I was like, Washington's going to end this perfect season. I'm going to put $5 on it.
I don't think I ever paid you, to be honest.
I think you did. I think I bullied you into paying. Not bullied you. I think I reminded you enough that you paid me. I'm pretty sure you did.
I don't remember. So maybe it happened. Maybe it different. It's $5.
Well, I'll check the demo history. I don't know.
But all right, you heard it first. $5 bet. Celtics win 1 out of 2 against Milwaukee. And wait. Are we going to be live during one of those games? Let's see.
Oh yeah, one of them is on a Wednesday.
7:30.
So one of them is on a Wednesday at 7:30. So for the last third of the show, we can give some updates. On our bet.
Definitely. Even what you think Boston's going to be doing down for them. All right, now looking at the Boston Bruins. This is a team I was very high on and was definitely a big shining hope for Boston sports fans. Looking at this team, they're really getting it brought to them right now. We're talking about a team that was scoring at least 3 goals a game is now looking at loss after the loss to the Islanders. You get a 4-0 win over the New York Rangers, a loss 4-0 to New York, 4-1 loss to Pittsburgh, and a win over Pittsburgh 2-1. Bottom line, once again with this team, got to score.
Yeah.
And watching them on the ice recently, they just look completely out of sync. And you're looking at a division right now where Washington leads at 42, tied with the Islanders at 42, Pittsburgh at 37, and Boston in 4th place at 34 points. And this was a team that was at top of the entire league for at least one of the top teams in the league in terms of points.
Yeah. So 3 goals in their last 3 games. 2-2 since we last recapped them last week. Like we say every week, goal scoring continues to be an issue. Bruins need more offense, especially against these really good teams, such as the Rangers, who they still are struggling to beat. The Rangers 6th place in this conference division, and they lost to them 4-0 after being in 4-0. Really weird dynamic right there to lose and win back-to-back games by a score of 4-0. But third in the division, they've surpassed the Bruins.
Yeah,
first a couple weeks ago at one point. The Bruins still in 4th like they were a week ago, but not too much change in the standings. But the Bruins, if they really want to get up there, they're gonna have to beat these good teams and score more goals.
Yeah, and like we've said time and time again, this team, they've got what it takes to really make a run and to really actually do something. But this is the final chance, really. This is the nail in the coffin for them, because if you don't, you're talking about players that are just going to keep aging until the point where you're no longer in the conversation. You're either going to have to sign somebody or basically draft, because that's
rebuild's coming soon.
Rebuild potentially coming soon.
Potentially, I'm not gonna jinx anything, but maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But for the Boston
playoffs this year, though.
I hope so, man. I hope so. If anything, they'll probably sneak in at the end, but still a whole lot of hockey, still a whole couple more. I mean, not a whole lot of hockey, because once April's done, that's it. The season's over. And then we head into May playoffs. So
it's already mid.
Same with the NBA. Same with the NBA. We're getting close too.
Yeah. It's close. We're getting close. And the NBA ends in like May this year, but Give me exciting summer because both these leagues might stretch in the summer again. I think
Yeah.
I know the NBA is, but I'm exciting, man. I'm really
A
excited
lot.
for the summer with professional sports again because usually every summer pre-COVID it was just baseball, baseball, baseball. Preseason football, NFL rumors, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
I
and
think
speaking of
both teams we
baseball,
just talked about are going to be playing some
yeah.
summer sports.
Yeah, and did somebody say baseball, I should say. I mean, spring training nearly coming to a close. And once April hits, opening day, that's something huge to talk about. I mean, the Boston Red Sox, just to briefly kind of skim over them real quick, still in training camp. I don't really have much of an opinion right now. I'm not some loser sitting in front of the TV watching
Spring training.
Yeah, spring training. Like,
you call everyone
I don't care that much.
Are all spring training watchers losers?
What's that?
Just all spring training watchers.
I have my friend's dad's a huge Red Sox fan, so he's probably watching the games every so often. But he's a guy who will watch every single Red Sox game when it's on, and I'm like, dude, I can watch only so much. I will keep up with the stats and everything.
You probably used to watch all of them, though.
No, never. I don't have that big of a attention span for that. Things move too quick now in life. All right.
Just before we head off, guys, just one last, free agent thing. Only signing of the hour. I'm excited that we end up going till 8:07. Just to say this before, Curtis Samuel going to Washington on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. That's it. So we're gonna end it. Curtis Samuel.
I was just gonna say, I was like, we're gonna end it on Curtis Samuel. Just to quickly go over that since it happened. Curtis Samuel proved to be a great utility weapon for Carolina, even having big moments last season. And I think he's going to be a good weapon for that offense. And you know what? He's speedy, just like Terry McLaurin. I think that's going to be a good duo there. It looks like Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be their starter as of right now because that situation's kind of in it.
Heineke, that's going to be a great.
That's right.
Great quarterback duelist offseason, man. We're going to be seeing a lot of memes about that. Two of the really great social media, meme guys in the offseason, Heineke and Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
People love these two guys, especially after the playoff game with Heineke. I'm really excited to see this quarterback duel take place. And I think if I had to pick now, I'm going to say Heineke, man. Honestly, I don't know.
I think I'll go with Heineke too because he played his heart out.
Stepped up.
Game. He really stepped up.
Even the games that he played, I think he played against the Panthers when that was Dwayne Haskins' last game on the team when he got benched at halftime, and he stepped up in the second half of the game and helped him really make the playoffs. Those last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, you guys didn't get Kenny Golladay, but you got Curtis Samuel, so you got what you got.
Washington fans are tuned in.
Hopefully he stays around until next week, and then we get him, but probably not. Anyways, thank you all once again for tuning in to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. Tune in every Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for some great sports talk. But until then, I'll catch you all next week. Go Pats, and have a wonderful weekend.
And happy St. Patty's Day, baby.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.